morning, everyone. I am Romela Serrano, your discussant for today. So, for today's topic is about Chapter 2 Legal Positivism. First is what is legal positivism? The term positivism derives from the Latin positum, which refers to the law as it is laid down or posited. Broadly speaking, the core of legal positivism is the view that the validity of any law can be traced to an objectively verifiable source. Put simply, legal positivism, like scientific positivism, rejects the view held by natural lawyers that law exists independent from human enactment. As will become clear in this chapter, the early legal positivism of Bentham and Austin found the origin of law in the command of a sovereign. So, legal positivism is the approach in the philosophy of law which trusts positive law. Law laid down in human societies through human decision as a distinct phenomenon susceptible of analysis and description independently of morality, divine law, or mere natural reality. And the highest common factor among legal positivists is that the law as laid down should be kept separate, for the purpose of study and analysis, from the law as it ought morally to be. In other words, that a clear distinction must be drawn between ought that which is morally desirable, and is that which actually exists, but it does not follow from this that a legal positivist is indifferent to moral questions. Most legal positivists criticize the law and propose means to reform it. This normally involves moral judgment, but positivists do share the view that the most effective methods of analyzing and understanding law involve suspending moral judgment until it is established what it is we are seeking to elucidate. In the words of the foremost modern legal positivist, Herbert Lionel Adolphus Hart, that the major virtue of legalism is that the certification of something as legally valid is not conclusive of the question of obedience. However, great the aura of majesty or authority which the official system may have, its demand must in the end be submitted to a moral scrutiny. Accordingly, positivism critics maintain that the most important features of law are not to be found in its source-based character, but in law's capacity to advance a common good, to secure human rights, or to govern with integrity. I think there could be a fuller development of what this means historically or in concrete terms. Also, the main reason on the other side will be the positive benefit of the rule of law. The non-positivists could make arguments that the rule of law happens most effectively when human rights or democratic consent norms are met. I think this is a short-term versus long-term distinction. This could be a round democide argument. Next is Law as Command by Bentham and Austin. So, who is Jeremy Bentham? Bentham in 1790, the philosopher and jurist Jeremy Bentham, 1748 and 1832, was born in Spitalfields in London on February 15, 1748. He proved to be something of a child prodigy. While still a toddler, he was discovered sitting at his father's desk reading a multi-volume history of England, and he began to study Latin at the age of 3. At 12, he was sent to Queen's College, Oxford. His father, a prosperous attorney, having decided that Jeremy would follow him into the law, and feeling quite sure that this brilliant son would one day become Lord Chancellor. In addition of Bentham, it is the best known as a utilitarian and law reformer, but he insisted of the separation between what he called expositorial and censorial jurisprudence. So next, who is Jane Austen? Jane Austen was an English legal theorist who posthumously influenced British and American law with an analytical approach to jurisprudence and a theory of legal positivism. Austen opposed traditional approaches of natural law, arguing against any need for connections between law and morality. So, in addition of Jane Austen, he built his scheme of a legal system on the classification of rights. He is not troubled by a search for a complete law. Also, in his pursuit to provide a plan of comprehensive body of laws and the elements of the art of legislation, Bentham expounds of complex logic of the will. Austen seeks to construct a science of law rather than engage himself in Bentham's art of legislation. And while Bentham sought to devise means by which arbitrary power, especially of judges, might be checked, Austen was less anxious about these matters. So, what is Law as Command by Bentham and Austen? The prodigious writings of Jeremy Bentham constitute a major contribution to positivist jurisprudence and the systematic analysis of law and the legal system. Not only did he seek to expose the shibboleths of his age and construct a comprehensive theory of law, logic, politics, and psychology, founded on the principle of utility, but he essayed for reform of the law on almost every subject. His critique of the common law and its theoretical underpinnings are especially ferocious. Moved by the spirit of the Enlightenment, Bentham sought to the subject the common law to the cold light of reason. He attempted to demystify the law, to expose, in his characteristically acerbic style, what lay behind its mask. Appeals to natural law were nothing more than a private opinion in this case, or the mere opinion of men self-constituted into legislatures. The indeterminacy of the common law, he argued, is endemic, and written law is intrinsically vague and uncertain. It cannot provide a reliable public standard which can reasonably be expected to guide behavior. The chaos of the common law had to be dealt with systematically. However, both share a concern to confine the scope of jurisprudential inquiry to accounting for and explaining the principal features of the law. In the case of Austin, thought this map of law properly so-called is considerable narrower than Bentham's and embraces two categories, which means the human laws and the laws of God. Human laws, laws set down by men for men, are further divided into positive laws or laws strictly so-called. Laws laid down by men as political superiors or in pursuance of legal rights, and laws laid down by men not as political superiors or not in pursuance of legal rights. Laws improperly so-called are divided into laws by analogy, laws of fashion, constitutional and international law, and by metaphor, the law of the gravity. Laws by analogy, together with laws set by men not as political superiors or in pursuant of legal right, are merely positive morality. It is only positive law that is the proper subject of jurisprudence. So next for Austin, to the four features of a command: wish, sanction, expression of a wish, and generality, is to be added a fifth, namely an identifiable political superior or sovereign whose commands are obeyed by political inferiors and who owes obedience to no one. This insistence on an omnipotent lawgiver distorts those legal systems which impose constitutional restriction on the legislative competence of the legislature or which divide such power between a central federal legislature and lawmaking bodies of states or provinces. Austin's contention that laws properly so-called be confined to the commands of sovereign leads him to base his idea of sovereignty on the habit of obedience adopted by members of society. The sovereign must, moreover, be determinate, for no indeterminate sovereign can command expressly or tacitly or can receive obedience or submission. And lastly, the law as social rules by Herbert Lionel Adolphus Hart. Hart is often credited with charting the map of modern legal theory by applying the techniques of analytical and especially linguistic philosophy to the study of law. His work illuminates the meaning of legal concepts, the manner in which we deploy them, and the way we think about law and the legal system. Hart claims that we cannot properly understand law unless we understand the conceptual context in which emerges and develops. He argues, for instance, that language has unopened textures, words and hence rules, have a number of clear meanings, but there are always several penumbral cases where it is uncertain whether the word applies or not. His book, The Concept of Law, published in 1961, is a classical of legal theory and has served as a catalyst for many other juries around the world. Hart's positivism is a far cry from the large, coercive picture of law painted by Bentham and Austin. Hart conceives of law as social phenomenon that can be understood only by describing the actual social practices of a community. In order for it to survive as community, Hart argues there need to be certain fundamental rules. He calls this the minimum content of natural law. They arise out of our human condition, which manifest the following essential features. So, human vulnerability, it is the dimension of disaster, the characteristic determined by physical, social, economic, and environmental factors or processes which increase the susceptibility of an individual, a community, assets or system to the impacts of hazards. Vulnerability is one of the defining components of disaster risks. So next, the approximate equality, limited altruism, limited resources, and the limited understanding and strength of will. These are the essential features of Hart's positivism. So, what is law as social rules? By Herbert Lionel Adolphus Hart. For Hart, law is equivalent to legal system. According to him, legal system is a system of rules comprising primary rules and secondary rules. Hart describes primary rules of obligation as rules that impose duties or obligation on individuals, such as the rules of the criminal law or the law of tort. Hart claimed that a social rule has an external behavioral aspect and an internal aspect. Drawing on recent work in the philosophy of actions, I argue that the internal aspect of social rules is best thought of as the widespread acceptance that an action should be performed. The nucleus of Hart's theory. It is the existence of fundamental rules accepted by officials as stipulating procedures by which the law is enacted. The most important of these he calls the rule of recognition, which is the fundamental constitutional rule of legal system, acknowledged by those officials who administer the law as specifying the condition or criteria of validity which certify whether or not a rule is indeed a rule. So next, law in Hart's analysis. Law in Hart's analysis is a system of rules. His argument is as follows. All societies have social rules. This includes rules relating to morals, games, or etc., as well as obligation rules that impose duties or obligation. The latter may be divided into moral rules and legal rules. As a result of our human limitation mentioned above, there is necessity for obligation rules in all societies. So, legal rules are divisible into primary rules and secondary rules. The former prescribe the use of violence, theft, and deception to which human beings are tempted, but which they must normally repress if they are to coexist in close proximity. The rules of primitive societies are normally restricted to these primary rules imposing obligations. Nature and purpose of primary rules. Hart attempts to show that every legal system incorporates secondary rules of three kinds. So first, he calls rules of change. These facilitate legislative or judicial changes to both primary rules and certain secondary rules, the rule of adjudication below. This process of change is regulated by secondary rules that confer power of individual or groups, Congress or Parliament, to enact legislation in accordance with certain procedure. Rules of change also confer power on you and me to alter our legal status by making contracts, wills, or etc. Second, there are rules of adjudication. There are rules of adjudication that confer authority on individuals, such as judges, to pass judgment mainly in cases of breaches of primary rules. This power is normally associated with the further power to punish the wrongdoer or compel the wrongdoer to pay damages. And third, there is the rule of recognition. There is the rule of recognition, which determines the criteria by which the validity of the rules of a legal system is decided. As pointed out above, unlike the other two types of secondary rules, it appears in part to be duty imposing. It requires those who exercise public power, particularly judges, to follow certain rules. Hart maintains that rules are valid members of the legal system only if they satisfy the criteria laid down by the rules of recognition. Comparing it to the standard meter bar in Paris, the definitive standard by which a meter was once measured, the validity of the rule of recognition cannot be questioned. It is neither valid nor invalid, but is simply accepted as the correct standard. That's all. Thank you.